and welcome back to my podcast. Thank you for tuning in. You have arrived at my unfiltered diary. I'm very independent. I'm a girl in my 20s. I say this every time. I do this for the new listeners. On this podcast, I share my best advice, my personal journey, life experiences, and some juicy stories that I can't help but spill. How are you doing today? Today, I don't know how I'm feeling. It's probably best if I just discuss what I've been doing. So this weekend, my partner went out on the weekend. I've just kept the house a mess. I was actually going to record the podcast on Friday night because I haven't quite decided if I was going to release it on Monday or Thursday. I'm really undecided on that. The logic of it would be to do it on a Monday to get everyone started for the week. But I just feel like a Thursday is a bit different. It's getting to the end of the week. Week's a bit shit. You're like, when's the weekend? And it's like, gives you a bit of a new mindset perspective. You've learned some things, you've took some advice, or you've refreshed your mind on things. And then you're like, okay, well, Thursday's like the day it gets you excited for the weekend. So maybe it'll be Thursdays. I don't know. When this podcast is released, it will be a Thursday. Just because I want to see what's the best day. And then I'll release one on a Monday. And I'll see by statistics what is better. And then I'll decide. Anyway, don't know why I told you the ins and outs of that. That's not important. That's nothing to do with my day. So yeah, my partner crawled into bed Saturday at 5:30 in the morning, telling me he went to a happy hardcore rave. I said, that's great, babe. What time is it? And he told me what my alarm says, right? When I have an alarm set in the morning, because I want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I have an hour of alarms between 6 and 7 because I don't get up to them. And he thought I was batshit crazy until within a month of him living here, he now does what I do and sleeps through half of them. So it makes complete sense why I have so many. But there is one of them that reads out the time. So like it'll have an annoying tune. And then there's one that goes, it's 6:20. And that's what he said to me at 5 o'clock in the morning. He was like, it's 5:20. In that exact tone. Oh, it was actually quite funny. Went back to sleep. And then I thought, let's drag this hungover guy to come shopping with me. So I went to the city centre, went to Superdrug, got some things I really needed, which is a shame because it was like he was trying to wind me up. He's like, oh, do you want to go look in there? And I'm like, no, because I can't afford to buy things I want. Like, I am unemployed, babe. And he's like, yeah, let's just go and have a look. Why? Because then I fall in love with things and he just finds it funny. You know, people make out that us girls are completely crazy and insane. But I'm telling ya, you boys, you have a little screw loose. I'm telling ya. There's something in there that's saying, I wonder what I could do to piss her off today. And that was that on Saturday. He was like, well, she's going to take me out the house hungover. I'm going to make her look in shops where she's just going to get upset. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration. I'm so happy that I released the podcast in a group of 5. So I thought when I was going to release them, I was like, I'm going to get a whole group of them released at once so that people can see that the first episode is not as terrible quality as the last one. You can sort of see the reflection of how I get comfortable and how I'm nervous and stuff like that. And I feel like it's really important to be completely transparent about a lot of things in this podcast. That's literally what I'm doing. Like, that's what I believe in. So I want to be completely transparent with everybody. And, well, I don't remember what I was talking about, actually. So, anyway, so last night we went for a double date night with my friend. Like her and her boyfriend. He finished work quite late, so we just went over for a late night takeaway, which was really nice. And it was only when I was doing it, I actually realised that I have never, ever, ever done a double date. Like, I've never had an actual boyfriend that I could call my boyfriend to everybody. Do you know how fucking embarrassing that is? There is so much to talk about with this this thing. Like, yes, I've obviously dated guys before, but whenever I thought I had a boyfriend, it turns out he wasn't my boyfriend, or he wasn't telling people what I would tell people. You know, he would lie to me, lie to other people, and yeah, so there's that. It's not happened to me just once either. It's happened to me a few times. So yeah, we're going to move on from that conversation. But it was very fucking weird when I was at my friend's house, and I was like, Alex is actually the first guy that I've actually brought out to meet my friends. Like, it's just fucking weird to me. And then he was like, yeah, you said it was weird when I asked you to be Facebook official, which is so true. Nobody's ever said to me, do you want to put it on Facebook? I just thought it was a weird question at first. Like, in my head, I was like, is that an ick? I was like, obviously it's not an ick. Like, why would that be an ick? I don't know, it was just a bit odd. Like, I was just like, this has never happened to me before. Is that a red flag? Why would it be a red flag? Just something in my brain's telling me, like, alert. Like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to be in a relationship? So, this is all very new to me. I don't really know how to deal with it. Alex is the only person I've been with as well that I've actually been, you know, met his family, know his family really well as well. So, it's really nice. And he's met my family. So, yeah. It's all a bit new, all a bit weird. And my family like him, which is great. Anyway, moving on. I just want to say, since I've started the podcast, I have created a Linktree account. So, oh my god, there's just so much to say. Right. So there's lots to celebrate this week. I released my podcast and I got over 100 downloads in 2 days. I'm very proud of that, actually. And I created a Linktree, which is basically a website where you can host all the links you want to put in your bio, all in one link. So basically, for all of you that want to be nosy, you can do that easily. Like, I've made it easy for you to be nosy and laugh at me. How good's that? Click on my Linktree in my bio. I think I've attached it to the podcast as well. So if you want to check out my cringy TikToks and help me get famous, do it. I laugh at them because do you know how hard it is to make a TikTok that's cringy? It's actually really hard. I look at myself and I think, you absolute mess. But it has to be done. If everybody else can do it and they can get famous, surely one of my videos is going to do well soon. Alright? The one that's pinned to my profile does not count because it was my first video, so they get pushed more. And I was one of the first people to do it when the trend got big, so that's the only reason it did well. So it doesn't really count. Anyway, now we've got the quote of the day. Are you ready? So you can't give your life more time, so give the time you have more life. What does this mean to you? I want you to send me a message, send me a voice note, or share it to your story and explain what it means to you, how it relates to you. Me personally, giving your life more time is so impossible. I feel like every single day there's not enough time in the day. Every single day I think, how am I going to make this week's time more valuable? I'm so busy all the time and I'm not even working. Like, I'm cleaning the house, I'm cooking, I'm going to the gym, I'm working for free for myself, I'm studying, I'm working on my goals so I can get myself into a better position where I can go back to work and I'll have less work to do. Actually seems quite naive me saying that now, but it makes sense. Like, it's been really hard for me to work a very busy job where I've been absolutely exhausted. It takes me an hour to drive to and from work and I'm the only person that's ever cooked myself, breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's a lot of work for one person. Obviously, now that I'm in a situation where me and Alex are very 50-50 in this relationship, we can, he'll cook me dinner one day, I'll cook dinner the next. I mean, it's not quite at that capacity. It's usually like he'll cook one week, I'll cook another. It depends on who's more moody that week, maybe. Who's got the energy, who's got the money, That's sort of how it's working at the moment. It goes up and down quite a lot. For a long time, I cooked all the food because, to be honest, I'll cook anybody dinner. Like, it's really hard to cook for one person. And I know I made a whole episode about how to cook for one person. If I cook myself something and I'm the only person there, I will cook enough for 4 people. If I'm lucky, I'll cook enough for 2 people. But then that's 2 meals. If I've cooked enough for 4 people, I've got to eat that meal 4 times in a row. Because I don't have a microwave. I have to use my neighbour's microwave. So thank you, Evie, constantly, dealing with me using your microwave. Because there's nowhere for me to put one. I don't want to pay for one. They used to be cheap. And someone was like to me, they're only 60 quid. That is not cheap, okay? I'm a tight ass. I would rather get one free off Facebook. Alright? Anyway, back to the quote. So, what it really means to me when I found this quote, I found it quite a long time ago. I actually have my own version of this quote, but it doesn't sound as good as this. You've got your whole life ahead of you, especially if you're young. Don't feel like you have to put all your time and energy into another company if you're not achieving more than what you want. If you want more from life, get yourself a job, even if it has to downgrade. Just get something where you can work on yourself. There are so many options out there. And the things with companies is they like to make you feel like they are your best option when that's never ever true. I worked for this company for such a long time and the financial stability was unreal. I stopped growing in this company years ago. I just took on more jobs for free. So I was like, why am I working more hard than I ever have? And yeah, I'm not getting paid a penny more. So, it does take a toll on yourself. And it does take away a lot of your freedom and your time. I literally had 0 life. My friend and I were talking literally last night. And she was like, what, you don't go out drinking anymore? Because I literally used to go out drinking every day. Every single day. Not just the weekends. So the fact that I can't even do that, because I would come home from work and I wouldn't even have the energy to cook dinner some nights. I would just fall asleep. And that's not healthy. It's not healthy to be that desperate to sleep. I wouldn't even make it into bed half the time. I would just wake up at a really awkward time where I couldn't eat because it'd be 2 a.m. and I'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm in my work clothes. And I would just have to get dressed and get straight into bed. And it was just really unhealthy. Anyway, going on again. So, quit your job, go see the fucking world. Why waste your time? We just spent 2 to 3 years in a shitty pandemic. Okay, maybe that was a bit of an exaggeration, but it felt way longer than that. And yet, people are still complaining about the job they have, complaining they're not getting anywhere, complaining about so many things, and saying, I know everyone feels really weird. They're like, oh, is things going back to normal? It's not going to be the same. And you just got to think, right, this is an open window for yourself to think, well, I have so much thought space at the moment and time to think about things. Why don't I actually do the things I want to do? You're going to get to 60, 70 years old. You're going to look back and think, did I actually just sit at home and scroll on social media all day? Was my life really that shit? I don't want to go in depth about it because loads of people are going to hate me for it, but I really don't care. Personally, the only thing that's stopping me going to certain countries is because I'm not vaccinated. Do you all really think it's going to last that long? Because I fucking don't. So I'm going to end up going abroad the minute I can. There are some countries you can go to, but it costs a lot of money just for the tests. And I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, most of these places, regardless if you're vaccinated, you have to pay for these fucking tests anyway. So why did everybody do it? Obviously, there's, for some people's health reasons. If they believe it can help them, then fine. But I'm not going to get into that discussion yet. I feel like it's a bit early to get myself cancelled this early. So I'll save that for the demand of it, When people want to hear about my opinion on that, then I'll give it. Anyway, today's topic... I need to put the mic over here because it's fucking too loud. So, in today's episode, I'm introducing a brand new topic to discuss. I speak too fast, and it gets tongue twisted. I've decided to talk about something that, in the past couple of weeks, I have actually felt like such a life coach. Not to be big-headed or anything, but I have so many strong opinions about things. That is for so many reasons. Like, I have learned the hard way in so many ways when it comes to people, life, etc., that I feel like the advice I can provide on so many topics will help so many people who felt the same way I did at the time. I don't know if anybody has the same way of thinking of me. It's probably not that normal, but it's got to be related somehow. Alright, when I talk to people, they say, yeah, I get you. So I don't know whether they're just being nice or they actually feel how I feel. But we'll find out, won't we? Do you know what it is? The last two topics I've got way too comfortable. I've been recording for like nearly 15-ish minutes. And I still haven't got to the topic of the day. So in today's episode, I want to be talking about setting boundaries. Setting boundaries with friends, in your friendships, romantic relationships, and the relationships you have with your family. I might touch on relationships with colleagues as well, but mainly about setting boundaries with people in your life. There are so many reasons I want to do this. I don't know if this is going to take up more than one episode. It probably will. That's because I can talk for ages about a lot of things, and I really find so much passion in this topic. So you'll have to bear with me. I do hope you find this useful. Setting boundaries across the board is really important. Personally, it's taken me a really long time to set these boundaries in my life. It's so important to set boundaries because it's like a vital part of self-care. Like, you need to actually care about how you feel and validate what you're feeling. Boundaries are what you're comfortable with. It's important to set boundaries because it's a vital part of self-care. You really need to care about how you feel and validate how you are feeling. What you're comfortable with is important. What you're happy to share and discuss is important. Communicating your boundaries is what I would say is the hardest part. Boundaries in simple terms are setting the bar of expectations of how you want to be treated. How people behave around you does depend on the expectation you have given them. A boundary is something you do to protect yourself, protect your mind, your body, your spirit, however you want to put it. So you are simply choosing to express what you are okay with and what you're not okay with. In this day and age, people call this high standards. Okay? I think that is just a trashy way of saying it. I've said it all the time, right? I've said it for fucking years. I said to people, I have high standards. I have high standards when it comes to guys. I have high standards to relationships with any kind of person. Because I'm just like, well, I'm not being treated like shit. Like, I don't need to deal with this. And it's taken me a very long time to put this into practice. Like, I've said it loads. Have I actually respected my own boundaries, though? No. Okay. I do now, but I didn't. For me, I always knew the idea of setting boundaries, but I would never respect my own boundaries. Something I've learnt throughout my life is if you set boundaries with people in your life, but you don't actually respect them, neither will anybody else. How can you expect somebody to respect boundaries that you don't even respect? I hope that makes sense. Without boundaries in place, you will feel like people use you. You will feel too much. What's the word? You will feel like people depend on you too much. You will feel like you're relied on too much. People will take you for granted even if they don't mean to. You can't put all the blame on people for using you, taking you for granted, etc. if you are letting them, okay? You're letting these people do this to you. And I hate to say it like that, but I had to literally drill that shit into my brain until I stopped doing it. Whenever I have dated in the past, like early stages, I would just say to someone, oh, I have high standards. You know, thinking I'm some bougie ass bitch. People usually think, well, she's up her own ass or something like that. But it's actually not that. It just means I'm not going to tolerate any shit. When I actually stick to my boundaries, I am actually happy. I find other people don't set their own boundaries though. And if they do, they don't stick to them. Which makes us think you're a liar or they lie. I don't know how to explain that in depth. If people set their own boundaries and yet they don't respect them, it's like, you said you don't like that, so why are you doing it? Does that make sense? a lot of the time, maybe they're not a liar. Maybe they just don't know what they want. They don't like the idea of something, you know? It can be along those lines too. Whatever it is, it could be that they don't respect you enough or they're not assertive enough. Forget all that for a moment. I'll go into the relationship side of boundaries a lot later on, because I feel like it's a lot easier to teach someone how to set boundaries in a relationship than other places in your life. Like, I found it the hardest to actually set boundaries with friends, with family, with colleagues, etc. So setting boundaries in friendships is a discussion I think not many people are ready to have. As we get older, you really find out who your true friends are and who are just your friends and who are just acquaintances, or people like you know them but you don't know them now. Like, you know, people you knew like 5 years ago but you don't really talk to them. You know who they are but you don't know them, you know. Your truest friends usually end up as your best friends. Whenever you make new friends, that's when boundary setting is the easiest. When new people get to know you, they are introduced to the newest, best version of yourself. Naturally, as humans, we set boundaries with our body language. As an example, by this I mean you can show by how you act if you don't like someone in your personal space, if that makes sense. Like, your body language will completely reflect how you feel a lot of the time. Well, if you're interested in creating a stronger bonded friendship, it's a lot more work and effort between one person and another. I find it really hard to text all day. Currently, as you know, unemployed, but that doesn't mean I'm not busy. In fact, I'm actually really, really busy. I'm working all day, I'm working on myself, I'm working on what I want to do. Most of my social media interactions are quite literally to grow an Instagram account, grow my social media pages, not necessarily actually connecting with any of my friends. If my friends want to talk to me, they'll probably call me or they'll text me on something that I will reply to that I don't post on. However, the friends I'm closest with, they aren't strong texters either. They know it's better to call me to get hold of me, probably the same vice versa as well. If you work all day, you go home, you go to the gym, you spend the last few hours of your day chilling out, Netflixing, relaxing, that is a perfect reason as to why you're unreachable, or you aren't able to stay connected by social media all day. If you've had a tough day and you want to be on your own, you haven't replied to all your notifications, then that's okay. We're human beings. You're not supposed to be that accessible instantly. Why are we all so accessible all the time? It's the instantly part that gets me the most. Like, why do we feel guilty as people for not replying for hours or not replying for days? What do you think people used to do? People used to just write letters and wait days and weeks to get responses. Why is that not like that now? I mean, if you're in my life... Sorry, had to put my phone on silent. How fucking rude. If you're in my life, you know, you probably are waiting a week for a reply. And I know what people say. They're like, don't you think it's just rude replying a week later? And I'm like, no. Why would it be rude? I will reply like 2 days later, a week later, maybe a month later. If it's a month, I'll probably be like, oh, sorry I didn't get around to this sooner. Like, maybe that's a little bit extreme. Especially if they're asking you something and they're not just going, hey. But why are we that accessible? Like, why do people feel so bad about it? Like, I do feel bad when I don't reply for a long time. Especially like when it's people I'm actually friends with or close with or family. But I'm just like, I'm busy. Like, I'm doing things. Like, unless you're asking me for something and making it clear you need to know now, or you want to see me, or you're actually making plans for a day you know you're free, I haven't got time to sit there and text you 1,000 times in one day. Like, where do you want to go? What day should we meet up? What time? And we can't come to an agreement. I mean, to be fair, that's never really the case, but that's just an example I was trying to put in place. If you're setting an expectation of yourself of being unreachable, it just shows you're a busy person. It doesn't mean you're ignorant or you're rude or you haven't got time for people, as what some people say. It just means you're busy. Like, people know if you're busy. The amount of times people have said to me in the past, like, oh, Jamie never replies, Jamie this, Jamie that. And I'm just like, I'm busy. And the more people that spent more time with me really did be like, yeah, you are busy. You've got shit to do. When I was working 6 days a week for this for my last job, the only days that I'd have off was Sundays. And what do you think I did on Sundays? Clean my house and do a food shop. And it's like, wow, lit Sunday. All I want to do on a Sunday is literally stay in bed and eat food. I don't want to do anything else. Like, why am I doing anything else on a Sunday? Sunday is a day of rest. I have lied to multiple companies in my life. I told them when I got the job, they said, would you work Sundays? I said, do Christians work Sundays? And they're like, are you a Christian? If it means I get Sundays off, yes I am. Is it wrong saying that you're a Christian if you're not? Is that wrong? Is it illegal? I don't think it is, actually. It's not fraud, because I don't have to provide anything to prove it. At the end of the day, it's a sacred day for me to stay in bed. It's not, actually. It's a sacred day for me to have a day off, you know? So many companies do take the piss. Not the company I worked for, though. They never made me work Sunday. But that's because I told them I would say I was Christian. Then it'd be discrimination. Anyway, moving on. Back to what I was talking about. I'm trying to be a life coach here and I just can't help myself. So, back to setting an expectation of being unreachable. It doesn't mean that you're so bad at replying and people find it jarring and all that. If people are making a comment about not being able to contact you, just say, best way to do this, best way to do that. I used to say to people, the best way to contact me is to turn up to my house. Like, you know where I live. That's where I am. And to be fair, my family do it. My family know. If you ain't going to answer, just turn up. But tell people the best way to contact you and what way. So people know to call me. Don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm so sorry, but I've got this and this going on in my life. One, no one cares, right? No one cares what you have going on in your life. I know that sounds shit, but I've always done it. I've always been like, oh, I'm really sorry. Like, I've been so tied up doing this. No one actually cares why you can't do something. And explaining yourself makes you look like you're doing something wrong, right? You're not doing anything wrong. You're making yourself feel bad. So you questioning yourself. You're explaining yourself for something you're not doing wrong. Like, you're busy. Why is that such a bad thing? It's not. I find it really hard not to explain myself, though. So this is why I'm telling you not to explain yourself. This is where people think, oh, they're just making excuses. I explain myself because I am really tapped into, like, other people's emotions. So I just assume that what I say upsets other people. Factually, it probably doesn't. Okay? But I am still that person who explains everything I say. If you listen to the podcast, obviously you are, otherwise you wouldn't be hearing this conversation. But I just explain everything I say. I don't know why. It's just, I don't know. Tell me what you think. Is it some issues I have? Probably. When people find me really hard to reach, though, I just tell them, like, if you called me, I would have answered or called you back. The difference with texting is that this sounds really mean, so I'm really sorry if this offends anybody who actually is currently being left on unopened, but I can already see your message if you text me. Like, if you text me and I can see it's not important to what I'm doing that day or in that hour or that minute, if you're just saying, like, I don't know, I can't even think of an example, but it's like, well, that's not important to me right now. So I just leave it there. It's the same with, like, Facebook Messenger or Twitter or Instagram Messenger. The annoying thing about Instagram, right, is that if you put a really intriguing first sentence and I'm like, oh God, I've got to read that, and then it's boring the rest, now I've opened your message. So it's like, oh, fuck. And the thing is, if you text me, I do this thing where I start essays because, you know, I over-explain myself. So I can't help but write long messages. This is why I hate texting, because I can't just write, how are you doing, babe? Yeah, good, yeah, good. I will write you an essay. How you doing? I will tell you everything. Okay? That's why I hate texting, because I can't just write a short, blunt message. And if I do, I feel bad about it. And I'm like, can we just see each other? Because I feel bad. Like, can we just meet up? Make a plan. Because we're both busy people, it's hard. But yeah, as I was saying, the difference is with texting is that because I can already see your message, I can see it's not urgent. If I'm in the middle of doing something and you don't need me right now, I have to put my priorities first. You know, whatever I'm doing at that point in time, if it's more important, I've got to keep doing that. It's absolutely like no shade to anybody, especially like no shade to anybody in my life that listens either. Like, don't take it personally. But we all put ourselves first. And if you're not putting yourself first, why? Why are you not putting yourself first? Like, actually think about that. Like, you are the most important person in your life. Nobody else is. So stop putting other people first, because they're not doing it to you. And if you think they are, they're not. They're either doing it for a reason of self-gain, or they're in love with you. No, I'm joking. That's a bit mean. People really should be putting themselves first. You should be your own priority. There's no reason why you can't put other people as a priority, but yourself should be first. You are the most important person you need to take care of. If someone walks out your life, what are you going to do then? Exactly. It's fucking terrifying when you put somebody else's needs before yourself, and then you think, what if they leave? You're scared. Don't be like that. Put yourself first. Care about yourself first. You can do whatever you want with other people, but if you're not putting yourself first, you need to really reevaluate that in your life. I hate to be cold about it, but I'd rather be honest. I know I say things really strongly and really passionately, but I just have a lot to say about it. And it's because I've done everything wrong, alright? I've done everything the way I shouldn't have to know what you should do. I know I give really good advice, and that's because I do the fucking opposite. I mean, I don't now, always, but sometimes I do. And I'm like, this is what I should have done. I have done so much in my life that's made me so unhappy, and I have to learn how to change my behaviour to make myself happy. It's not easy at all. That's why I had to make this episode, to make this sort of thing easier. I am truly that person that just gets major FOMO. For those of you who don't know, FOMO is, what's it called, an anagram? I don't know. It means fear of missing out. I tend to feel like this when I'm not included in plans, or when my friends meet up with other people. Well, not other people. When my friends, who are friends, meet up with each other and I'm not invited. I know it's selfish, but it seems reasonable to me. I felt like this so many times in my life. All the times it's bothered me the most is because I've introduced my friends to each other. I'm like, oh, this is my friend. You should meet them. You'll get on. And then they all start hanging out when I'm not there. Like, why? You are my friend. Maybe that comes across quite possessive, but I know for a fact that it makes sense to me. I just think it's fucking weird, and it really gets to me, even when I pretend it doesn't. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. Oh, did ya? You did that, did ya? Yeah, okay, great. I'm not sure if this is like a boundary I need to set, but I have learnt from now on, try not to make your friends best friends. Keep your friends to yourself. There's no reason you need to introduce them to each other. There's just no reason for it. There is actually so much I can say about this thing, but I'll just save that for another episode, because I can go in depth about it, and I know you'll understand, but that's not the point of this conversation. I just keep going off topic. So the truth is, friendships can break your heart just like a relationship, especially if you fall out or you've been friends for a really long time. You got to think, like, as they grow up, so do you. And as you grow up, so do they. Your careers change. Theirs might too. I used to meet up with my friends like every single evening after work. Gradually, within a few years, this just sort of died down. I used to think people didn't want me around or grew sick of me. Like, they were like, oh, I just don't want to see her today, or I don't want to invite her because she's annoying. It's just not the case. Like, people don't feel like this. You are growing, and so are your friends. Like, we're getting old. You know, sometimes when people want to see just one of their friends, it's like, you know, you don't want to have like a hectic evening, or maybe you're just having a particular conversation with just one person and you don't want everybody else there, or whatever the reason is. I'm 23 now. Within the last 5 years, a lot of my friends have had kids too. Obviously, their priorities and lives completely change. They still want you around, of course. They're just even busier than you can imagine. The first time I went and spent a day with my friend when she'd not long given birth, I literally fell asleep at her house. I had probably the most exhausting day, and I have no idea why. Her daughter slept all day. Like, I don't even know how to explain that. Like, I had no reason to be tired. I got up in the morning. I think I went there for like midday. We'd just gone for a really long walk, and I just a catch up, and she was telling me about what it was like giving birth and all that. And I fell asleep early evening. And I just thought, when I woke up, I was like, how does that happen? Imagine what it's like when you have to constantly put your whole attention and energy into a little person. Like, that is a lot for a person. To anybody that's listening that's a parent, fair fucking play. Alright? That's hard. I'm literally doing a podcast to help people with a bit of life coaching. If you're a parent, I'm sorry, I can't fucking help you. You're fucking stronger than I am, alright? Honestly, I am terrified of having children. Kids require your energy and all your free time. So if you're worried your friends who are parents are not available or not replying, it's because they're so tied up. It's probably better to call them and arrange to meet a time and a date. Like, ask them out for coffee. Ask them if you can bring coffee over. Be like, oh, I'm going to bake a cake. Can I bring it over? Like, you know, or I'm going to cook a dinner and it's way too much for myself. Can I bring it over and share it with you lot? You know, something like that would be nice. So another way that people can set boundaries as well, if you're a parent, parents set boundaries around their own children and you around their children. I mean, if I had kids, I wouldn't want people talking about certain things around them. I don't want people giving their extreme opinions until they were like old enough to understand what we're talking about. You shouldn't feel bad because your friends have set boundaries around their kids and you. Like, it's not about you. It's about their kids at the end of the day. There are so many things I could talk about when it comes to setting boundaries with friends. For example, when I've met people who make excuses for a lot of their friends. You know, when people say, sorry about my friend. She's drunk. He's drunk. He's just like that. She's just like that. Sorry. Why is that an excuse? We need to normalise validating someone's feelings. Not necessarily taking the baggage home, but just be conscious of how other people feel. And yes, I know, I always say, I don't care what anyone thinks about me when I'm in public. I'm still conscious of other people's feelings. Have you ever had it where someone always refers to you as the single friend and everyone like tries to set you up with someone? This has been me for literally years. And it actually really frustrates me. I don't want to be set up. I didn't want to date at this point in time. I have my opinions on dating, but that conversation is for another episode. Setting that boundary with your friends and just say, I actually want to be single. And I don't actually need a man. I just want company. That's a big difference. Maybe you just want new friends. Why do you have to explain that to people? Why did so many people, friends and family, set this expectation of, you need to get married, you need to get a man, he'll take care of you, you can have kids, you'll buy a house, invest your money, do this, do that, meh, meh, meh. Yuck. No. Thank you. I'm in my fucking 20s. It's 2022. I'm not doing any of that. Thank you very much. By the way, I know I just said all that, but I do actually have a boyfriend now. But, just saying, I'm not doing any of that stuff, alright? I don't want kids anytime soon. I don't want to get married, ever. I don't want to... Okay, I don't want to buy a house, but I'm broke. I want to buy it with my money, okay? But yes, I do actually have a boyfriend now. I know, it is pretty unbelievable, right? But if you know me, I haven't actually dated properly for like donkey's years. Mainly by choice. What I was trying to say before about that chunk of my life where I didn't want to meet anyone new. Personally, believe you can't put your dependency of your happiness onto another person. We all have our own boundaries for friends. And I do think as the world changes around us, so do some new boundaries. I've been in a situation before where my friend at the time was talking and meeting up with the guy I liked. That kind of nasty shit really ticks something off in my brain. I don't know what it is. Honestly, it's not the first time I've experienced someone have interest in a guy I'm dating. Personally, I would kick doors down over that shit. Why on earth is your friend doing that? For me, friendship cuts off immediately. End of discussion. Bye, bitch. Because of experiences like that, it's quite tough. Especially in the beginning, to trust a new guy around your friends. Now I have a lot of new friends, so when I meet new people, I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I try so hard not to be crazy. I try so hard to be completely trusting of my partner. However, there is still a little something in my head that says, just keep an eye out. Just don't not see it this time. It is actually pretty sickening to be like that and feel like that, to be honest. But everyone's actions show more than anything they have to say. I do have more trust than I've ever had for my friends and my partner too. What I'm trying to say is when someone has betrayed your trust, whether that be friends, boyfriends, both, it's actually something that you naturally look out for because you learn that lesson like, damn, I look stupid as fuck. In actual fact, you don't look stupid. Why would you look stupid? It's not your fault, but it's just something that our brains do to us. When I have new friends or I meet new people, I tend to try and understand how they feel about certain topics and things. Whether they are a naturally flirty person. You can tell the way people treat other people, whether they're whether they have a naturally flirty personality. It doesn't actually mean they're flirty. Sometimes someone I think is flirty is far from it. It's just their approach to people they don't know. But I can see what bothers them, how they judge people. I'm not really observant. And if someone has a flirty personality, it doesn't usually mean they're actually doing anything they shouldn't be. Like, they're just like that. And it's not an excuse. But what I'm trying to say is, if you think someone's flirting with your man and they're not a flirty person, you're like, well, the fuck are you doing, slag? If they're a flirty personality, you know, one of my friends, she naturally is very flirty. She would never, ever, ever do something wrong to me, though. Like, never disrespect me in that way. Vice versa. I'm not a naturally flirty person, but I think sometimes people think I am, just because I'm a nice person. I don't know how to explain that, but no one ever says to me that you're a flirty person, but I think it's just because I'm a nice person, people would interpret me as a flirty person, if that makes sense. Like, there's not many nice girls in the world. I'm just saying. Yeah, I haven't got much to elaborate on that part. These little judgments I make up in my mind, though, trying to determine how I feel about someone, I can tell if they're a decent person, in my opinion. It doesn't mean like they're a bad person, but I can tell by their vibe, their aura, their energy. I can tell straight away, within first meeting someone. I don't care if they're paralytic, they're high, or they're not their usual self. You can tell by the way someone is, even if they're not in their own character, you can tell if they're a nice person. You can tell if they're a genuine person. You can tell if someone's going to lie to you constantly, or, you know, they're sketchy or whatever. It's like a sixth sense. I just know instantly if someone has a shit vibe. I know straight away if someone is bitchy. In the past year, I've actually met so many new people and made a lot of new friends. And it's been so nice. Because most of these people are quite like-minded. And if they're not, at least they're the kind of person to say what they think. Anyway, when meeting new people, you can set boundaries really easily. You can be clear about what you like, you don't like. You can be open and honest and what you're strong opinionated about and what you don't mind. Even down to things you can joke about. Like, you can make a test joke. You know when you joke about something a bit controversial and you're like, I'm going to know what kind of person they are by how they react to this joke. Stuff like that. And then you can discuss things that are deep and personal. Because they're people you don't know, you can say something and be like, are they going to bring that up again? If they bring it up around people, you're like, okay, that's fine. They could probably assume you're open and honest unless you've told them not to say anything. Or if they bring it up to just you, personally, it's like, well, they're probably just trying to keep your business to you and them and they want to know more, you know? You can decide what you're happy to discuss is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes setting boundaries can be really hard though. I've had it before. I've had a few of my friends work in the same company as me. Most of the time I never had any like weird issues. Like whenever one of us would be annoyed with someone at work, it'd never really be a problem. Although one time my friend at the time had an issue with me, which was directly a work-related issue, and it became personal. So I was a manager in a company. In the early days of becoming, well, just before I became officially a manager, I would just be delegated tasks from the boss or the management to carry out. Sometimes it would be things like store complaints, product assistance, anything related online, customer service, etc. Anything and everything. I worked in a quiet store, so where I'd worked in the company for years and I knew it really well and ins and outs of stuff, it was just easy to delegate me the tasks and get them done basically. Well, there was a time I was asked to arrange a staff night out, a bit like a Christmas work do, just to get all the staff together to go out for a meal one evening. In the company I worked for, the stores aren't really local to each other. Some were like hours away from each other. We have people who are a lot older than me, or I think I was the youngest, or am the youngest. But people have kids, people have responsibilities, people have things they have to do, and they live too far away, and all of these kind of things. Trying to find a suitable date for the majority of the staff to be able to attend, who actually wanted to, isn't actually that difficult. But on this one occasion, my friend had said she couldn't make the dates I suggested. Every answer I received from all the staff, I would send the feedback up, and that way my boss would decide what I would suggest next. This is going to sound really selfish now, but I really wanted my friend to be able to come, right? Obviously, because she was my friend, not just my work colleague. I must have suggested like 3 dates, and she couldn't do any of them. She seemed pretty frustrated. However, the group of dates I had to get this organised by was good for the majority of the staff. So I had a responsibility to complete a task and get it booked the same day. My friend proceeded to get upset about it, frustrated with me, made a comment about my position in the workplace. Like, at the end of the day, I tried to find the dates based on wanting her to come. I'm not a superwoman. It's not my fucking birthday party. It was for work, so I don't really have much of a choice. The boundaries I should have set in this situation is being clear about being professional in the workplace, making clear that it's not my responsibility to make everyone happy. It's my responsibility to complete a task, and this specific task was to arrange a time and a date for majority of people. I was the one being selfish and trying to find a date just for my best friend to come. The boundary I should set for the future is work me and personal me is not the same person. Regardless of how I feel about it and what I want, it's my duty to get something done in a certain time frame. My friend and I did actually fall out over this. At the time I felt so disrespected because I'm just trying to do my job. Like, I got to where I am for a reason. I get shit done. There are a lot of times where colleagues become friends as well, so it's fine to be unprofessional outside the workplace, but sometimes in the workplace, if someone isn't pulling their weight and you're working together, it can be quite hard to be like to pull your weight, do your job without hurting your feelings. But for your own sake, you have to just tell them, like, you have to set that boundary early, like, this is all great, but we need to do our job. Creating boundaries is to protect yourself. It's something you shouldn't feel guilty about. It's quite literally the key to being happy. Now, lastly, I've got to address setting boundaries with friends you already have. You know those friends who can be your bad influence? Those friends who sometimes take it too far? You can set boundaries at any time. It's harder to set them later because there is that element of, oh, but I've known them a long time. Or they've been my best friend forever. If you don't like how they act, maybe just tell them how it makes you feel. Now, my suggestion would be to meet up alone and have a coffee at each other's house or a dinner date. I think addressing issues with people should always be done in private. They might feel offended, but I would prefer someone spoke to me in a private situation before talking shit behind my back. Or, if you think I'm going to hate what you have to say, talk shit behind my back, but make sure it never gets to me. You know? I don't care if people talk shit behind my back as long as I never found out. Like, it's fine, talk about me. Free advertisement. At the end of the day, if you didn't care about losing your friendship or growing distant, you wouldn't be having this conversation. As I said earlier, people change. It's natural. It's human. If you are happy with, this person, but you just want to set a boundary, then have the conversation. I've had it before when someone has asked me to keep my thoughts to myself. But trust me, I do. But in a conversation, I just say what comes to mind. I don't think before I speak. And that's something I personally couldn't respect. I know that sounds really immature, but I struggle to think before I speak. That's just something that I've ended up losing friends over. But then on the other hand, I've got really good friends because of it. So I won't sugarcoat things. I won't ever lie. The only time I think I've told a white lie or avoid the truth is like when a child asks you a really awkward question that you're not the person that should be answering. Like when I was a kid and my little brother and sister used to ask me things, I used to think, the Easter Bunny, he did it, Who else can you blame things on? Like, it's not your place to tell someone else's child things, So you just gotta blame it on the Easter Bunny, alright? The Easter Bunny, he has a lot to answer for. Anyway, that's just an example. If you have one of those friends who is close to your family, but when they drink, they're like a total nightmare, maybe address it and just say, you know, I don't care how you are around me, but around my family, can you please, like, just be conscious of not getting too drunk too early? My family gets embarrassed about things like that in public, for example. Not my family. I'm just using this example. My family wouldn't give a shit. In a lot of cases, nobody actually has any issues respecting your boundaries. The examples I've given are pretty vague. The main problem is that if you're not respecting your boundaries, you know, people will match your energy. People will naturally do that when you have a stronger relationship and a stronger friendship. Like, people naturally match the energy, your boundaries and everything, and they tend to reciprocate very similar boundaries that you've asked for because they end up feeling the same way and understanding them. I do also think that you'll notice a lot of boundaries you set, you can in fact lose some friends. You may not fall out, but you'll end up spending less time together and stuff, and that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. What's really worth more? Your peace or your relationship you share with a lifelong friend? That is something that sounds really tough to think about. The thing is, I know very well that that is really tough to ask people to stop doing something or bear your feelings in their mind, but it's also not their responsibility to make you happy. This is where communication is absolutely vital. This is why I stress about having the discussion and setting the boundaries, even when it's brand new. A lot of people think of me as someone who doesn't care what they do, and they know you can ask me anything. But that's because our boundaries lay in other places, which is why our friendships are so strong. I always set boundaries, just people don't always realise, you know? I'll bend over backwards to help a friend out. If my friends need me to be there while she wants to act a little crazy, I'm all over that, within reason. Because there's no way she feels this way for no reason. She's been disrespected, mugged off, anything like that. Nobody's crazy for no reason. I'm just saying. What do you guys think about setting boundaries with friends? Let me know. I'd love to share your messages on the next episode. So now that I've launched the podcast, I'm slowly going to incorporate the voice note section into my show. So keep your eyes peeled on my Instagram stories. Get involved. You can do this by selecting the bell on my profile at podcast.j. This way you'll be notified whenever I make a story or post. To send me your questions, confessions and anything you need advice on, send me a voice note to play on the pod or type me a message so I can add a disguised voiceover if you prefer to be kept anonymous. What are you struggling with at the moment? Any issues with your friends or not sure how you can set new boundaries? Please send me that voice note message and I will give you my best advice and address every single message. On the next episode, I'm going to elaborate more on setting boundaries in relationships and then relationships with your family too. It turns out I actually have a lot to say about setting boundaries. It's a lot of fucking work, but once you start doing it, I promise you, you will be so much fucking happier. Thank you so much for tuning in and being involved. Please come back every single week for a new episode. I haven't decided a day yet, but I'll let you know. Make sure you're checking out Podcast J on every single social media platform. Get involved and support the podcast in any way possible. Have a great week. See you later.